part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Hey, what's good, everyone? Thanks for stopping by on Cavs on the Break, NBA podcast right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. We are your hosts, John Sabol, and I'm alongside JIA, Jeremy in Akron. What's good, my man?
John, what is up? Good to be with you tonight. Good to talk to Cavs. Dropped one the other night, but hey, if I told you 2 weeks ago we would be 8-2 through the first 10 games, I think you'd take that.
I would take that in a heartbeat. I have been absent on the last two podcasts with work and vacation schedules, and two other guys that are absent from this podcast, Chase Smith and Sam Amico, due to other issues in their schedule. So it's just going to be us two riding solo. So thank you for everyone tuning in, subscribing on the podcast. And of course, remember, if you haven't already, do so. Subscribe on Apple and Spotify and follow the pod at Cavs on the Break. On Twitter, you can follow me at John_Sabol. Jeremy, throw your handle out there.
At Jeremy in Akron, baby. At Jeremy in Akron.
Simple enough. All right. So since we were recording this on November 8th. It's a Tuesday. The Cavaliers are coming off a loss to the Clippers, snapping their 8-game win streak on this current West Coast road trip. We'll get into the Clippers game in a moment, but the Cavs currently 8-2 right now, surprising everyone in the NBA with this amazing start with this retooled lineup. I know, Jeremy, you, Sam, and Chase have been talking about it at length over the last few days. Last couple podcasts, last few weeks rather. But since our last episode, the Cavs had that win streak continued on that West Coast trip with the Lakers game. And then obviously we just said they lost to the Clippers, but let's back up a little bit to that Lakers game because there's a lot to jump into there, especially when it comes to LeBron James and in his post-game comments. You know, Cavs beat the Lakers by 14 on Sunday, November 6th. In pretty convincing fashion in the second half. It's funny. We were just talking about this before we recorded. LeBron's body language in that was pretty telling, was he not?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. LeBron, you could tell he was frustrated at the end of the game. There was a play where Anthony Davis missed a rebound, and I think Allen got it and put it right back up in. And you saw LeBron just drop his head, sag his shoulders, jog back down to the other side. Look, LeBron's living the life, right? He's rich, he's young, he's in LA. He's living the life he wants to live. He's a movie star, he's a media star, but he can't be happy with the basketball team that's around him right now, right? There's no way. You have LeBron in an honest moment. Yeah. There's no way.
Well, and this comes back to your point that you made on the last episode that I listened to. About Chase is living this dream, and a lot of Cavs fans are that LeBron's coming back. And you made up this point that if he didn't want to be in LA, he wouldn't have signed the extension. And Sam has been saying this for a long time, as I have, and you have too, that this is just not going to happen, at least not right now. And if it does, it won't happen until maybe it's like a one-day contract type deal or Bronny or whatever. Let's just enjoy the moment for what it is now. Yes, LeBron is probably a little jealous at the Cavaliers right now because his roster is one of the best young rosters in the league, Jeremy, and they're doing things and they've built things in a way that they had never done before while LeBron was there or when LeBron left the first time. And then the second time, it just taken a little time. And now we're seeing the fruits of the labor.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a young roster that's ultra supremely talented, that's locked up for years to come. Meanwhile, LeBron's playing on the island of misfit toys, right? Anthony Street Clothes Davis, a bunch of guys who, Westbrook there's no rhyme or reason to that roster. They're a horrible 3-point shooting team. Everybody knows that, to have success with LeBron, you surround them with guys that can shoot. They don't have that. It's just it's an ill-formed roster. It's a bad roster. And you look at the Cavs, and it's the exact opposite right now. It's a roster that's put together very well with young guys. I think Donovan Mitchell's like the elder statesman of the core at 26 when you don't count Kevin Love. So yeah, it's just the opposite place. And I'm sure if you caught LeBron in a private moment, and even some of his surrogates, like I talked about, Cuffs the legend. Everybody knows Cuffs had the last two time moves LeBron had. Cuffs had it early. Even some of LeBron's surrogates have been saying, hey, LeBron would look nice on that Cavs roster, tweeting stuff like that.
Sure.
So So LeBron's thinking it, can't say it, but does he regret re-signing with the Lakers? Probably not, because of everything that comes along with playing for the Lakers. But I'm sure he's not happy with that team.
And listen, I would love for LeBron to be back here. I would. I think it would be fantastic. Who doesn't want him back, except some weird Cavs Cleveland fans, which I still don't get the hate, but whatever. That's a pod for a different day.
Yeah. Right.
It just doesn't seem realistic, just because the signs have all been on the wall there. So let's just get that out of the way right now. Okay. This is a business move. It's for his family. He's not going anywhere. I truly believe if LeBron did really want to continue to chase championships, he wouldn't re-sign there. He would go somewhere else. I think that championship window in his career is closed completely. And I think part of that reason is his own reasoning for staying there. So then that's fine. I'm not knocking that. But it is interesting to see the post-game comments he had about the Cavs, what he said to reporters out there in LA, how he just praised the roster, praised the mental makeup and maturity of that team. If anybody hadn't read it yet or seen it yet, he mentioned something how, he gave an honest opinion, but he got in trouble with giving an honest opinion last year. And Jeremy, he was referring to the interview he did with Jason Lloyd of The Athletic at All-Star Weekend, talking about, the future and coming back to Cleveland and everything, which blew up. But
he also said the Cavs had 3 All-Stars. He included himself as a Cavs All-Star.
Yes. And you know what though?
Man.
It's funny. You can't help but think, and for fans, and I bring back the chase here, get excited because LeBron toys with people like that, but that's how he is. He's calculated,
no doubt.
It's one of those weird relationships. But he raved about Evan Mobley and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and I thought the one thing that he said in there that I thought was very interesting that we have not talked about, I think Sam maybe had alluded to it a little bit, was when he says, let me get the quote here. I'm looking at the roster. This is quote LeBron. Quote, I'm looking at the roster and you don't really see too many guys all over social media showing off they got this and showing off they got that. Seems like a bunch of guys that just like coming to work and waiting to play ball. And that's definitely probably a joy for a coach and a coaching staff like that, end quote. And it continues. LeBron's so right about that, because this roster and the way that Kobe Altman has built this roster, Jeremy, is one that and I tweeted this after that Lakers game. This is not me ball. This is the epitome of team. There's no egos here. Nothing, no selfish play. If there were any egos or selfish play in previous players' play in the past, that's gone. And I'm referring to Kevin Love, Karis LeVert, Donovan Mitchell in some instances in their career, which I'm not faulting them, but you can see a complete change in those 3 guys' approach to some of their games in play and buying into systems of JB Bickerstaff.
Right. And it just feels like JB is like the perfect coach for this group. They obviously love him. We all saw the Junkyard Dog presentation ceremony led by Kevin Love in the locker room the other game. But it's just like they've kind of taken on that personality. He's a dog, right? JB's a dog as a coach. And now this is a team that's playing for him, playing hard for him, and obviously buying into what he's selling. And, sometimes it just happens, you just get the right guy at the right time in the right place. And it just feels like JB is that guy with this group of guys that seems to be a selfless group, which is rare these days, obviously, in pro sports.
When Kevin Love and the team gave JB that Junkyard Dog award after that Lakers game, I assume you watched the video, right?
Yes, obviously. Yes. Awesome.
Any fans out there listening to this pod that has not seen the video, just go on the Cavs social media channels. You'll see it. You can't help but get chills by watching that. I mean, the vibes there, something special, something real special there. So, all right, enough about LeBron in that game. Cavs ended up blowing out the Clippers in the second half by 20 points with a 14-point win. Tough back-to-back. It's funny. They lose to the Clippers the next day, Monday, which would be yesterday, 119-117. They blew a 13-point lead with under 15 minutes to go. I'll be honest, I fell asleep during that game. I never fall asleep during games. But I was on vacation for a few days up in northern Michigan, duck hunting with my brother-in-law, and I was getting up early and staying up late. And finally, the last day of the trip, I watched the game on my phone. I wake up at 5 a.m. to go out duck hunting, and the phone's like on my chest. I fell asleep. I look at the score, and I'm like, what happened? They were up, 13 points, and they lost by 2. And I read the highlights, saw the last few minutes later on, and kind of got bummed, Jeremy. And then I was like, you know what? It's a long season, bro. They just won 8 in a row. They're bound for a clunker in a tough back-to-back in LA. I could have saw this coming, but I guess I was just too caught up in the moment of fandom,
Yeah. So I think it was like a tired legs West Coast thing caught up with them. It's the end of the game. A lot of step back threes, a lot of kind of silly mistakes uncharacteristic, maybe by Darius Garland. Felt like if they would have, maybe pressed the issue a little bit, they could have got a couple more easy layups. Just need a couple more layups, and that would have closed it out, right? So kind of felt like that. I mean, to lose a game, and we talked about this a little before we recorded, but to lose a game with some of the crazy stats of that game, like Donovan Mitchell 8 for 11 from 3, Allen 10 points, 20 rebounds, Garland I think like 24 and 12. To lose a game with kind of ridiculous stats like that, but it's going to happen. It's a long game. We're still like started the show off. We're 8-2. If you win 8 out of every 10 games, you're doing pretty good. When you extrapolate that over a whole season. No, but it's just it's one of those things that's going to happen. Was there some questionable rotation stuff? Yeah, I thought so. I don't understand why Okoro played more minutes than Dean Wade, as well as Dean Wade had been playing. Even Seti, even though my famous line about Seti, he could shoot you into a game or shoot you out of a game just as easily. Didn't get very many minutes, didn't get very many opportunities. I know, look, it does feel like there's a little bit of forcing going on with Isaac Okoro. Like they really want this to work. So they're giving him every opportunity to earn this job before they turn the page. I think there's some of that going on there. But yeah, it's a back-to-back on the West Coast in LA. It's bound to happen. They got tired at the end of the game. Is it ideal to blow a 15-point lead in the last 4 minutes? No, but it does happen. So I kind of felt the same way you did. I was a little bit bummed for when at the end of the game, 15, 20 minutes later, I was like, it's a long season. We'll get Sacramento,
Yeah, you bring up a great point. When I saw the stat sheet and even watching the game, I was like, where's Chetty? And I'm not saying they lost the game because he's not in the rotation there, but he played 3 minutes, yet Okoro's playing 18 minutes and only scored 3 points on 2 attempts. You got to give me more than just 2 attempts. His other point, his 2 points came on the free throw line, by the way. Or his 3 points came in the 3-point line. Chetty only had 2 points. So I agree. There's some forcing going on here. This is a guy who we've talked extensively over the last year plus about him and trying to make him fit the mold of a certain player. And on media day, when I was chatting with Chetty, he told me, or both of them actually, we'll start with Isaac, he had tried to reinvent his game a little bit. He worked out constantly, got even leaner than what he was, but still somehow put 10 pounds of muscle on. Kid looked cut. He worked on his shot. They're looking like, they'd want him to be that lockdown defender, but that can hit that corner 3, which, Jeremy, we've talked about. It just hasn't materialized yet. Defensively, he's great for the most part. There's still he's still one of the better defenders.
He's an excellent on the ball defender. There's no doubt about that. He's an excellent on the ball defender.
But he always has been since he came in the league.
Yeah. But you got to develop something. You can't be right now. There's times they don't even guard him. Like they literally don't even guard him. They just leave him open, and his confidence is obviously shot. I've actually noticed, at least from the 20,000-foot perspective, it looks like Donovan Mitchell is really trying to help him with his confidence. I've noticed Donovan Mitchell, looked like he's intentionally talking to Isaac at points in the game to try to get his confidence back. I'm sure there's some of that, and maybe that's some of those minutes tomorrow. Maybe JD thought it was a good day to get him more minutes, see if you can rebuild that confidence, because obviously they really want him to be a contributor. It's just not happening right now.
But it goes to show to Donovan, and I've caught that same thing too. That just shows his leadership, and it shows his veteran presence and how he's really taken some of these young guys under his wing. And he's only a few years older, but he's been down there in the trenches and has been deep into the playoffs and is is really trying to be that extra leader on the floor with a Love. And when Rubio comes back, looking for some veterans there. The other thing too that kind of bothers me, and I'm kind of wondering on is, if you're trying to set this rotation here, the question was going to the year, who is going to be that fifth or sixth guy? Is it going to be LeVert, or is it going to be Chetty, or is it going to be Okoro? And you've seen some of the lineup changes, and it looks like LeVert's without, of course, with Darius when he was hurt, but now that he's back, I mean, who is it going to be? And to me, it's obviously going to be LeVert, and it has been. That I thought would have been a moment during that injury that you could have seen Isaac probably take control a little bit more of the minutes that he was getting, and it just didn't materialize. But who did materialize, even a better player or better production, was Chetty in those games, having some outstanding play in minutes there too. That's another guy that knew heading into the season that he was kind of under the microscope a little bit, and that he was going to be in a spot where, hey, you jettisoned a lot of your players, your Lauri Markkanens, your Colin Sextons, and a rookie that you never even had a chance to play with. And now you bring in Mitchell, and you're going to be a role player here. It's either sink or swim. And in the moments, it seems like in those rotations, he's been able to swim a little bit. But at the same time, a guy we never really talked about that has really blossomed was Dean Wade, earning that contract in the offseason, but also stepping up in the moments counts as well. That's kind of taken away from Chetty's minutes on the court.
Yeah, and obviously that was pretty good foresight there by the Cavs, because Dean Wade has looked fantastic. He's becoming a knockdown shooter. Yep. He's a guy you're not going to be able to leave. He's sort of like blossoming into a poor man's Kevin Love. I could totally see that. And plus he can guard threes. Look, if you watch him, he's doing a good job guarding athletic threes. So I just think there's a real chance that if Isaac Okoro doesn't step up soon, he's going to completely, especially when Rubio gets back, going to be completely out of the rotation. I don't think that's what the Cavs want, but I think looks like where it's heading at this point.
And then it's like, what do you do with him then? I mean, this is a conversation for a different day, because once we get closer to his return, you're going to be looking at a lot of question marks. I don't really think, and we're jumping ahead here, right? But you go into the February trade deadline, I don't think you really can move him, because I don't think he's much value, if at all, anything. So,
unless he's just an add-on for salary purpose to something bigger, or I could see the Cavs looking to add another knockdown shooter or something like that. Again, getting way far ahead of ourselves here, but I'll put a bow on this. It's obvious the Cavs really want Isaac Okoro to develop some kind of offensive game where he can help the team. And just right now, it's just not looking like it's happening.
It's not happening. Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's the case. But Cavs 8-2 now, as they continue that big West Coast road trip where they have a game against the Sacramento Kings coming up here. In less than 24 hours from us recording here on Wednesday the 9th. And then they go from they stay up in Northern California and head to Golden State, and then it's home finally Sunday back at the Field House against the Timberwolves. First home game in Cleveland since the Boston game, that thriller overtime on November 2nd already, I think it was. So, all right, we're gonna have more on Cavs on the Break NBA podcast with Jeremy and myself coming up right after this.
Ohio, listen, I have some great news for you. DrafKings Sportsbook is coming to the Buckeye State, and Press Play Podcast has sponsored with them to help you get the most bang for your buck. And it won't be long until you can bet on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home. To celebrate, all new customers will receive $200 in free bets when you sign up today using our promo code P3Cavs. That's capital P, the number 3, capital C, capital A, capital V, capital S, P3Cavs. Plus, 5 lucky customers will win a $100,000 free bet. You heard that right. $100,000 free bet. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you, right now, if you sign up for free, $200 in free bets just for signing up with our promo code, no deposit required. And you'll be entered to win a $100,000 free bet when you sign up. I just did it. It is super simple. It's easy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, wherever you get your apps on your phone. It is the best. You'll receive that $200 in your account the moment sports betting becomes legal in Ohio, looking like January 1st. You don't want to miss out on this incredible offer. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966, 21 years, ages and older. You have to be physically present in Ohio. Eligibility restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Subject to regulatory license requirements. One entry per customer. $200 will be issued as 8 $25 free bets. No purchase necessary for sweepstakes. Void where prohibited. Ends the first day DraftKings is allowed to operate in Ohio. See terms at dkng.co/OH. Hey, this is Chase Smith, and I'm here to tell you about our wonderful longtime friends over at Aligned Health Center. Did you know Aligned Health Center is the first and only chiropractic biophysics clinic in Northern Ohio? There is no other chiropractic clinic in the area that does what Aligned Health Center does. Let me tell you all about them. And I should know, I just went to them last month and they were incredible. From the welcome staff to the technicians and the doctors, it was an incredible experience, and I know you're going to enjoy your time there. Chiropractic biophysics is a technique that actually reshapes the spine and restores it to its original correct position. At most chiropractors you go in, you just get an adjustment and you're left with that short-term relief, but it's not actually fixing the underlying structural issues. But at Aligned Health Center, they actually aim to correct the structural issues and provide long-term relief to their patients. I'm talking about back pain, neck pain, migraines, ADHD, digestive issues, sleep disturbance, whiplash, scoliosis, and knee pain. Yes, that's right. They can even help correct lifelong knee pain. And it gets better. They're opening a huge, brand new state-of-the-art facility in Westlake. It's going to look so nice. I saw the floor plans. It looks incredible. You're going to love it. And in addition to chiropractic biophysics, they also offer regenerative medicine, which is a way to help rebuild cartilage in various joints and help reduce pain in places like knees, shoulders, wrists, and even your lower back. You can check them out online at alignedhealthcenters.com. That's Aligned Health Centers with an S, alignedhealthcenters.com, or call at 440-385-7357. Again, that's 440-385-7357 to schedule your exam. We will put the website and the phone number in the show notes of this episode.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sabol.
And I'm Scott Sabol, and we're hosts of the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sabol Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it. Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
What's up, everyone? Chase Smith here, host of the Chase Smith Podcast, and my podcast reflects who I am. My hobbies, my interests, my passions, my curiosities, my careers, my questions, and my family. I'll spend time talking about all types of sports, movies, TV shows, trending news stories, and other cultural events, and even faith. This is who I am, and I hope I can get to know you as well. Join me on the Chase Smith Podcast, and let's have some thought-provoking conversations, only on the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to Cavs on the Break, NBA podcast, all part of the Press Play Podcast Network. John Sabol alongside Jeremy and Akron. We just kind of recapped the road trip and some of the issues that were plaguing them, along with some of the personnel issues for the Cavaliers. Now I'm going to hit to a little segment here, Jeremy, that it's funny. We're only 10 games in. So the stats when it comes to the team and certain players aren't going to be what they're going to be in 20 to 40 games in at the All-Star break or whatever. But so we just kind of have fun with this. Something that is sustainable and something that is not sustainable. you just look down the stat sheet, you can kind of pick out some fun and easy, obvious things. For me, two things that are not going to be sustainable for the Cavs. I'll go right ahead. The Cavs right now, as they sit, are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the entire NBA through 10 games. We did not see that coming. They're at 40%. Behind the Nuggets are shooting 42%. That's better than the Grizzlies. It's better than Boston. That's better than Golden State. I mean, the Cavs are shooting out. They're shooting the lights out at an incredible clip in the amount of attempts that they're giving as well. I don't see it sustainable. I mean, that's a big influx of Donovan Mitchell. Don't get me wrong. But as you go on and on the season, your competition gets a little harder. I just don't see that being a sustainable stat for them. I hope I'm wrong, but we just did not see their shooting jump the way it did so far through 10 games as it has. Because last year as a team, the Cavs only shot 32% from beyond the arc. So that's an 8% jump.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree 100%. There's no way they're going to shoot. Look, they're not going to shoot it at a 40% clip. Maybe they shoot it at a 38, 37% clip. Maybe they stay in the top 10, but they're not the best shooting team in the league as currently constructed. There's no way that's going to happen. Right. I mean, Donovan Mitchell shooting, 3 or 4 points higher from the 3-point line as he is, higher than his career average. Eventually he's going to come back down to that. We don't know about Dean Wade. Maybe Dwayne Wade is a fantastic 3-point shooter, and that's just who he is. But it could be because there's not as long enough track record with him. But as a team, I just don't believe. I agree with you 100%. I just don't think shooting 40% from three is sustainable.
Well, it's funny because when I just looked at you on the Zoom, you froze. I thought you were like stunned that you had another like disagreement. I was like, what? Really? No, but it's all good.
No, I agree.
but no, to your point, you also stole my thunder. My next thing that's not sustainable, it's actually a combo platter of Dean Wade's 3-point shooting at almost 49%, and then our boy Karis LeVert's at almost 44%, who's a career 33% 3-point shooter. That is an incredible jump. I know it's a small sample size. Don't get me wrong. But it is impressive to see these numbers the way they are. It is definitely contributing to their hot start, their 8-game winning streak. But it's also a byproduct of Donovan Mitchell's game.
Yeah.
No doubt. Also, Jeremy, it's also a byproduct of not having Darius Garland on the court either.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, though. There's a saying in sports, a week's a streak, a month's a trend, right? 10 games in the NBA, that's a month. Right.
That's fair.
Almost, so maybe it's a trend as a little more than a streak. We'll see. Obviously, they're not going to keep it at this rate for the whole season, but maybe it is sustainable. No, I tend to agree with you, though. It's not 40% 3-point shooting, especially Karis LeVert shooting that well. Dean Wade, 49%. No, maybe 40s, though. So yeah, but I guess obviously all we can do is watch and see. But I tend to agree with you that they're not going to shoot this well the whole season.
All right, so those are my two, or really one big giant stat or thing that's not sustainable. Now I'm going to give you something that is sustainable, and it's the team defense, specifically between two guys that are not known for their defense, that have improved their defense. Again, small sample size. That was the big knock on their career and really just their style of play, and that's Karis LeVert and Donovan Mitchell. I got roasted on some of the comments in that trade with the Jazz from Jazz fans on Twitter talking about, oh yeah, good luck having Donovan Mitchell when he doesn't play defense in the playoffs, or good luck when he doesn't play defense at all in the regular season. Well, I'll be the first to admit I didn't watch every single Jazz game here in Cleveland. Sorry, but well, he's proven everyone wrong because everyone keeps talking about how his defense is vastly improved so far, and that's obviously a byproduct of JB Bickerstaff and then being a place where he wants to play and the guys around him that he's tight with. Karis LeVert knew that in order for him to play and get the minutes that he wanted and crack that starting lineup, he needed to play defense. And JB Bickerstaff basically told him that. And boy, has he done it. Yes, we're not getting the offensive production at a consistent clip. That's okay. Fine, whatever. But the big knock on him, well, two big knocks, maybe his streaky shooting, but also this is the guy that didn't play defense a lot in his time with Indiana and Brooklyn and even parts of college. But when he did, he's a pretty good defender.
Yeah. Well, obviously he's rangy, he's athletic, he has all the tools to play good defense. And let's not forget one other big factor here, John, with Karis LeVert. He's in a contract year, and he's openly stated he wants to be here. He wants to stay here. He's an Ohio guy. He wants to be in Cleveland, and maybe the best way to earn a spot on a team where you're not going to be the first, second, or third option is to play great defense. Right. So makes himself indispensable that way and maybe earns a new contract. So that's a big part of it. And this team, obviously it makes it a little easier to play defense when you got two of the best rim protectors in the league behind you, right, at all times. So, but it's a buy-in thing, like we talked about earlier with JD. Obviously, the team is buying in, and playing defense is a lot, not all, but a lot effort, and effort is something only you can control, right? So, I think all those things factor into why Karis LeVert is playing such better defense this year.
Do you have something stat, player, sustainable, not sustainable that you can think of?
Well, I think the one thing that's big to me that's not sustainable is the amount of minutes that Donovan Mitchell and even already Darius Garland, since he's been back, are playing. I think, they're small-ish guards. Now, obviously, Mitchell is really put together. He's a big dude. But I just don't think it's sustainable. At one point, he was averaging 40 minutes a night. I think it's dropped a little bit down to 39. I think you need to get both of them down in the mid-30s. You don't want to burn them out early in the season. You don't want to burn them out at all. I think a 35 minutes a night is something that is sustainable. I think closer to 40 is just not sustainable. With the style we play, B, with the injury factor for both Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
You bring up a good point. I mean, think about this. If you're putting a lot of wear and tear on the tires and you don't decrease those minutes, what are you going to be come April, come May?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
We don't want to be one of those situations where we peak too early, right? And then it's tough to get, once your legs are gone at the end of the season, it's tough to get them back. So, load management is a real thing, and it's something that I think JB's going to have to start to figure out here in the upcoming weeks.
I think that's going to be something maybe. Did you approach that December, like Christmas time already? I mean, you had to, by that time, you already kind of know where you're at in the league. You're quarter of the way through.
Yeah.
You're approaching already halfway through the season in a lot of ways. At that point in time, you kind of have a better idea. And think about it this way too. The Cavs schedule right out of the gate, tough. Toronto on the road. You're playing Boston twice. Then you got a West Coast swing with stops in LA and Golden State. I mean,
not easy. It's not easy. And then you also, as a coach, I'm sure you get caught up in the fact that you've won 7 in a row and you want to keep that rolling, right? So then maybe you play guys a little bit more than you normally would, even last night, to try to keep that streak going in a game that in the grand scheme of things doesn't actually mean all that much. So I think all those things are factors, but we have to have faith that JB will figure this out going forward, and he will. And they got a great staff. Obviously, you got Luke Walton on the bench. Now you got guys that have coached in the league, guys have been head coaches. So I think as a team, they'll figure this out.
Yeah, there's a long way to go. Like we said, we're only 10 games into the season, and JB Bickerstaff knows what he's doing. And you got to wonder, too, when it comes to this load management, what they're going to do with some of those guys like that have had injuries in the past, albeit freaky injuries with Darius Garland's eye, but Evan Mobley had lower body injuries last year. We had some COVID stuff. So all small, minor issues. I guess the bigger issue was Jared Allen's finger last year at the end. And
forgot about that actually.
Yeah. And that was not right when he returned last year either. He was favoring that guy for a while.
I remember that. Yep.
But hey, this is a start that we did not see coming, right out of the gate. 8-2 in the first 10 games, like you said at the beginning of this podcast. If someone were to tell you they would be that good, playing that well with that record, with that schedule, we would take it. I wouldn't think they'd be that good, but hey, here we are. How many games have you been able to go to, by the way?
Well, they haven't had that many home games yet. I've only been to 2 so far. I've only been to 2 games so far. Plan on going to a bunch more. I bought a half a season package And my dad says the other day, he's like, yeah, I really want to go to some more games. So I actually contacted the rep I might add to my package just because my kids want to go now. Even my daughter loves going to Cavs games. I can get my wife to go. My wife won't step foot in a Browns game, but I can get her to go to a Cavs game. So I think I'm even going to expand that out some.
No love for the Brownies, huh?
Yeah, she's just I think it's more the whole vibe that goes along with the basketball game, kind of the fast pace, the show that goes with it. It's a different thing. There's to really enjoy a pro football game, you got to be a big time pro football fan. To enjoy a Cavs game, you got the golden oldies dancers they got up there now. You got all kinds of stuff that's surround. I'll tell you this: the Cavs do a phenomenal job of game day presentation. I don't think there's any doubt. I know they've won the award in the past for best game day presentation a couple times. The Cavs do a phenomenal job with all the extra stuff.
I never knew they gave out awards like that. That's funny. Who
they actually a couple times. I think it's a media voted thing, but a couple times the Cavs won the best game day presentation deal.
Who God rest his soul, hated all the in-game mumbo jumbo.
I know you're gonna say. Go ahead. I know you're gonna say.
Yeah, he hated when the league changed. I think let's probably say mid to late 90s when things started to shift because the in-arena stuff changed, newer arenas, halftime, a quarter timeouts, all the music changed, the lights, whatever, all changed probably around that time where instead of dull time in between the break in actions, the league and everything, it's a cultural thing. Everything changed.
Sure.
Where it's more in your face, loud. Do you know who hated that? And to the day he died, and so I should say to the day he retired, kept ripping the NBA how he did not like it.
Joe Tate.
Bingo.
And he said after he retired, he never stepped foot back into another arena. Never went back for a game until he had the night where they he actually said it on the night where they honored him. He said he hadn't even been into a game, and he kind of said what you just said. It's just he was about the basketball. He wasn't about the show that went along with it. But nowadays you need it all. You need the show. You got to get the casual fan into the arena, and that's part of how you get them into the arenas with the dancing girls and all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, and I don't think he watched the Cavs after he retired either.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he followed it at all.
But that was all.
Didn't he have I think he had a horse farm, right? He tended to his horses.
Yeah, yes, he did. And then, of course, he did a lot of the Mount Union games too.
Yeah, which I loved, actually.
He loved doing that. And, man, Joe Tate was a big hero of mine growing up listening to Cavs games. And we were spoiled in this town with great announcers with him. And
Joe Tate, even Howie Chiswick being Howie Chiswick as the arena announcer and, PA guy. And you're right. We've always had fantastic. Jimmy Donovan now. Tom Hamilton. I mean, the best of the best.
Ned Chandler. I love Jack. I love Jack Corrigan with the Indians back in the mid '90s too.
The best of the best shaped our childhoods, right?
Absolutely. There were times growing up. Here's a quick little story when we didn't have. We had maybe 2 TVs in the house, family room and another room, and I was the youngest of 5. So my older brother, and my 3 sisters, and then me. Well, my brother would go to college, and then my dad and I were instantly outnumbered, 4 women to 2 guys. And so we got overruled in all of our, viewing habits growing up. So I would literally go in my bedroom. I had my alarm clock radio, and I would listen to Cavs games on the radio while playing with my toys or playing with basketball cards or whatever, and just listening to games constantly. And that was my life. That was my childhood. And then one day after a Cavs game, in the Coliseum days, my brother and I waited after a game and went right behind Joe Tate's. This wasn't his perch, I guess you could say, that was at the Q or the field house now. He had a similar setup at the Coliseum, but different. And we sat right behind him as he did his entire post-game rap show and listened to it live, like 5 feet away, and then got to meet him and talk to him a little bit. And one of the coolest moments of my young, sports career. And he was one of the reasons why I got into sports broadcasting, by the way.
And I'm sure he was in a horrible sweater. So, every day was ugly sweater day for Joe Tate.
Yes. I would love no doubt about that. I would love.
That's
to
what
know.
I've talked about. My childhood was very similar to yours. I used to sneak a transistor radio with headphones into my bed every night, so I'd listen to the Cavs, and then I always joke I'd listen to Kenny Rhoda. Kenny Rhoda was on nights at K&R at the time. I'd listened to Kenny Rhoda, and I'd listened to the Cavs. I remember I was actually devastated at one point. 850 actually got the Indians for a while, and I was worried about my Kenny Rhoda. Like the Indians are on every night. I wouldn't go to hear Kenny Rhoda as I went to bed. That's that's a true story from when I was about 12 years old. So
now, Kenny, I hope he is listening to this, does a fantastic Howie Chiswick impersonation.
Oh, I've never heard of Howie.
For all those Cavs listeners out there who don't know who Howie Chiswick is, Jeremy just mentioned him. He used to be the old public address announcer at the Richfield Coliseum. I don't think he ever came over to the Gundorino at Open, but he also did radio. I think he did some radio work in Akron for
100.1 WNIR. He was like the king of Akron radio for about 30 years. Yes. But yes, I have heard Kenny do it. Actually, he did the Elo for Thari.
Yes,
that's where he got famous. Was the Elo for Thari.
And he's another guy, not Elo, but Howie Chiswick that passed away in the last few years. On a plane, yeah, a plane or airport, one of the two. But man, that was terrible that we're losing all these great broadcasters in the Cleveland area. But it's funny. You talk to some of these former Cavs back in those days, a Price, a Doherty, a Nance, and Elo, like I have. They all raved about Joe Tate and Howie Chiswick. They loved him. But Mark Price was just in Cleveland a couple times this past summer, Avon Lake and Medina for a basketball camp. I went over there and talked with him a little bit. We reminisce, and he loved Howie Chiswick and of course Joe Tate. All right, enough about Cavs past and present. But let's go back past. I'm going to throw something at you that you're not going to be ready for this show prep. We didn't do this in the show prep. I'm going to give you a little Cavs. I'm going to give you Cavs trivia, trivia anniversary.
Okay.
All right. You ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Jeremy has no idea this is going down.
Okay.
You had no idea what I have up my sleeve.
I can confirm that I have no idea what he has up his sleeve right now.
All right. So on this date, November 8th, 2003, 19 years ago.
Okay.
A little minor Cavaliers history took place.
Okay.
That happened against the Wizards.
Okay. 2000.
I'm trying to think what other clues I can give you without giving it away. You know who's on that team then?
Michael Jordan?
That has nothing to do with Jordan. Jordan was not on that team. Jordan had just retired a second time. The season before that was his last year. Don't look it up.
I'm not looking it up.
I'm
not.
See cheating over here on the Zoom.
What happened that night? 2000.
It's really minor history, but it's worth noting because you know what? This is what we call a bookend podcast conversation.
Okay.
There's your clue. We started talking about this, and now we're going to end with this.
Okay. Last time we started season 8 and 2?
No.
Oh. All right, come on. Give it to me. I'm not going to get it.
This year, or this season I'm talking about in 2003, the Cavs got their first win of the season, which would be their 6th game of the season. They were 1-5.
5. Yeah, I'm just going to say they wouldn't have been 8 and 2 in 2003. All right, give it to me. Come on.
It was LeBron James' first win as a Cavalier.
Oh, the 1-5. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep, Cavs
makes sense.
Beat the Wizards 111-98.
I'll never forget that first game in Sacramento. Remember all the hype, and then he just came out and looked absolutely fantastic. I think he scored 27 that night. And from that day on, you knew, okay, this is something.
It was I taped that game, by the way, on a TV VCR combo on a VHS tape. And it was on ESPN, I believe, right?
Yeah. And it was electric, and the atmosphere was electric. And I think Darius Miles might have thrown him an oop early on. No, Ricky Davis, stopped and flipped the oop to him, and it was just electric, man. Just an electric night. And who would have ever thunk all these years later? I mean, if Jim Rome used to always say nothing ever lives up to the hype except LeBron James. Yes. LeBron James is one of the very few, high school young stars that exceeded the massive expectation. You're right. And I've had times in my life where I probably overly hated on LeBron. I'm past that. But if you really step back and look at it, the weight that was on him when he came into the league.
Yeah.
You know, the massive Nike deal, the Sports Illustrated covers. The fact that he not only lived up to the hype, but far, far exceeded it is just absolutely incredible.
We'll never see it again in our lifetime.
No,
an athlete
nothing like that.
That has reached the astronomical level of height and then some, and then lapped himself, if you will. The only athletes that even come close, but not even close, if that makes sense, would be, well, close is relative. Let me just say this. There have been athletes that are in conversations of the greatest of all time in their specific sports that have reached a level like a LeBron, but the hype heading into their careers were never,
but not that young. I mean, they weren't on Sports Illustrated at 16. There's one now that's maybe relatively close, maybe the Bryce Harper, at 12 years old, in newspaper articles talking about there's too much hype, he can't possibly live up to it. But obviously he's not at LeBron level.
No, and he's got to win a championship too.
Yeah, true.
But what I was referring to was like Serena Williams or Tiger Woods.
And actually both of those two are probably those if you're going to make a comparison, it's Serena, Tiger, and LeBron are the three that have had similar hype. Tiger probably actually more, but there's an argument to be made that Tiger did not have near the longevity that LeBron has, especially when you go basketball age versus golf age. Like he could have been in his prime these last 5 years, and because of a series of unfortunate events for him that are not golf related, that were life decisions because of probably some of the pressure that comes along with it. So I think LeBron has even exceeded Tiger. Serena, I think Serena and LeBron are probably the two. I mean, there's an argument to be made that Serena actually has exceeded LeBron as far as career goals and stats and accomplishments. Yeah, no doubt.
And it's hard to compare an individual sport like tennis versus a team sport like NBA or like basketball. I would listen to that argument, and I would actually agree that Serena's probably done more in her career individually than LeBron has. But to the unfair part of the argument is basketball in the NBA is just more popular. The spotlight's on you more than pressure is. And there was pressure with what she has done and everything. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying because the popularity in the sport, the ratings, the money and all that other stuff. But I would say her accomplishments and what she's done and what she had been able to do compared to LeBron or not compared to LeBron is not talked about nearly enough in sports.
No, I agree with that. No doubt about it.
All right, before we wrap 100%. This up, I kind of want to go down this box score of this game real quick. That LeBron's first home win, because let me just tell you, people forget how bad this Cavs team was. LeBron had 17 points, by the way, in his first home win as a Cavalier. In that win against Washington. The leading scorer of that Cavs team, ready for this? Darius Miles.
That's Darius Miles, Ricky Davis.
Ricky Davis had 26. Ricky Davis and Darius Miles both had 26 points. Carlos Boozer had 19. LeBron had 17. Those are the only Cavaliers in double figures.
And they traded Darius Miles later that year for Jeff McGinnis to the Clippers.
Yeah.
And I remember Michael Ray guy actually broke that trade. He was going on an interview on ESPN 850, and before it came out, Michael Ray guy actually broke it live, that trade, and that's how I heard it, and that's how the world heard it. It wasn't Twitter back then. So.
No, kids have no idea how hard it is, how hard it was to get information back in the day. Here's a random box score tidbit from that game that I find fascinating. Christian Laettner was on that Wizards team.
Right. I remember that actually.
In 32 minutes, he scored 1 point.
You know what's funny though? If you go through, and I've done this because I'm a stat freak. One time I just happened to go through. Maybe it was when that I Hate Christian Laettner documentary came out.
Oh, right.
Really fantastic documentary. Yeah. I went through it. He had a much better career than I remembered. Like I thought he was just a massive, massive bust. But if you go through, he had some decent years with the Hawks, and if you go through Christian Laettner, just someday go through Christian Laettner stats, and you'll be surprised that he actually had a better career than you might have thought.
Well, you talk about longevity. I mean, the guy played from 93 to 2005. I'm looking at it right now. You're right. I mean, he played for...
And even look at some of those years. He had decent years.
He played for 6 different teams. Yeah, his first...
He averaged
the league
18 points. Yeah, 96 for the Hawks. He averaged 18 and 7. Yeah. He played all 82 games. You know what I mean? Like, Isn't that something? Now, if you wouldn't have looked at these stats, would you have known that was Christian Leitner's?
No,
no, it's crazy.
Of course not. No way.
Just,
I mean,
he's only seen as a massive bust, and he actually was not a massive bust. He was a serviceable NBA. Look at his first 10 years in the league. He was averaging about 16, 17 points a game.
But you know,
he's just known as a bust because of the dream team thing. Because he was like, because he was like the which of these things just doesn't belong here on the dream team, right? He was that guy. Yeah, but he actually had people joked that he was the caddy. He just carried everyone's bags. But if you go look at his career stats, he was actually more than serviceable. He could be said a really good NBA player.
Yeah, he was. That was back in the day when the dream team was constructed in a way, or the national team was they had to pick a rookie out of the college, or I'm sorry, a college player that came in that hadn't played in the NBA yet, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, that's exactly it. No, I've never heard an explanation for why they had to, but they had to take one, and they took him.
Yeah, because the dream team was 92. He didn't make his debut in the league until 93, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, 92 he played, but I think that I don't know. I'm not sure if the Olympics was before or after his rookie year, but either way, you're right. They had to take someone coming into the league. I remember that.
It was just a weird. I don't understand why they did it, but I want to say, come to think of it, I want to say his rookie year was 92, 93, which would have still, and it was, yes, I'm looking back up here. So he still played in the dream team before he even played in the NBA, if you think about it, because the Olympics are in the summer, the NBA didn't start to the fall. So
what if I told you Christian Leitner averaged 18 and 9 his rookie year? You never would have believed that. He averaged 18 and 9 his rookie year. 18 points, 9 rebounds.
Yeah, that's just
crazy.
Unreal, man. The fact that guy gets labeled that bust. But you talk about the I Hate Christian Leitner documentary. You watch him, and he embraces it. He has fun with it. When you're in situations like that, that's the only way you can deal with it is just accept it, have fun, and go and walk away.
Exactly.
Wow, we touched on quite a bit in this episode of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Jeremy, this is fun. Looking forward to another one when we get the guys back.
You know what that was there, John? That was an easy hour. We just talked for an hour, and it was easy. That's a good show when you do an easy hour.
That's how you know you have good conversation and fun conversation.
Yeah.
And we hope you guys enjoyed it. Jeremy, throw out your Twitter handle so our lovely listeners can follow you.
At Jeremy in Akron, JIA, at Jeremy in Akron. Jump on. Let's talk sports. Come at me. Let's go.
Jeremy's got some pretty witty tweets out there that has some not related to sports, pop culture, whatever.
Mostly sports, though. Mostly sports.
It is entertaining to say the least. You can follow the pod at Cavs on the Break on Twitter. You can follow me at John_Sabol. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We really appreciate your listenership and appreciate you guys tuning in. Jeremy, it's been real, man.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
Talk to you soon.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.